All right, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, it is the afternoon here on Texas in Color. And boy, we've been on the road today. I got this young man right here. And man, just talking to him right now, I just feel that a change is coming. And I really do feel that we need that change. Okay, sir, you want to introduce yourself and tell us what are you doing?
Of course, of course. So my name is Bentley Paiz. I grew up and was raised in Comal County, which is right in between Austin and San Antonio. It's considered a very rural county, or it's not rural. It's used to be rural like 5 years ago before the boom that we had. But it's a very red conservative county, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of attention from our state party, from our local parties, and just not going about things right. So just from seeing that growing up, I wanted to get involved. I previously ran for city council within New Braunfels, and then more recently ran for county commissioner in Comal County. I'm now running the Guada-Coma Progressive Coalition in hopes to, collaborate some resources from both Comal and Guadalupe counties, bringing people together, sharing resources, sharing ideas, and figuring out how we can change the local narrative and actually get stuff done for our communities.
Okay, so you got an organization that you started. What inspired you to start this organization?
So I've from being involved, one of the things I didn't mention was I previously worked for U.S. congressional candidate Claudia Zapata, who ran against Chip Roy. And throughout that time on working for her campaign, we traveled from Austin down to San Antonio and across the Texas Hill Country. And I would see all sorts of organizations, all sorts of groups that were advocating for different things for people, from abortion rights to LGBTQ issues to decriminalizing marijuana. And just seeing that there was actually groups in these regions, these areas that had people doing this kind of stuff made me want to, I guess, push for that in my own hometown of New Braunfels. So I started there. I previously ran the Comal County Young Democrats for a while, until there was a little pushback from the local party due to, you know, doing too much stuff. At a certain point, people look around and they're like, why are these people getting all the attention? Why are they getting um like actually figuring out what's going on in the community? Why are they showing up all of a sudden? And it puts a higher standard on groups that were previously just playing card games at their office or who were previously just using it as a social club. But I've realized that there's a lot of that going on in Texas, and we need as many groups as possible to work together and to share the resources they have. So, with our organization, one of the things we are hoping to do is to decriminalize marijuana in both New Braunfels and Seguin, and of course, surrounding areas within Comal and Guadalupe counties. Those are just the home cities for each one. But, we want to decriminalize marijuana. We want to um, do as many efforts as possible to get out there, to be present in the community, to grow the progressive movement in these areas. One of the things I've noticed is our Republican Party, I hate to say it, but they know how to show up. They know how to show up to their city council meetings and state what they are concerned about. And I've noticed, like here in New Braunfels, we've had our local conservatives show up nonstop to advocate again for to advocate for banning books that are LGBTQ related, to demonize our librarians, to demonize our students who may be identifying in the LGBTQ community. Um, so they show up for that. They show up to their school boards to demand teachers being fired for being LGBTQ or for being more open with their students. There's a clear division and a clear lack of what we as Democrats are willing to do and what the Republicans are willing to do. And I've noticed, of course, the Democrats will invite famous people to the area, invite local uh, representatives, um, you know, they'll invite people expecting other people to show up for that. And although it does work for other Democrats who are interested in that, it does not bring in new people. And the Republicans are really good at showing up to places of play or places of relaxation or comfort and getting into your head and telling you, we need to focus on this. And that's one thing I noticed the Democrats have not done in this area. And with the Guada-Coma Progressive Coalition, we have been showing up to city council meetings. We have been showing up to commissioner court meetings. We're hoping to show up to school board meetings soon. We're also wanting to write some sort of newsletter of what's happening in each city. So from New Braunfels to Canyon Lake to Cibolo to Schertz, Bulverde, Seguin, all these cities around. We're trying to get a newsletter going where we can let people know, hey, this just happened at your city council meeting. They just raised the taxes here. They're trying to ban these books. They're focusing on irrelevant national issues while they should be focusing on the fact that we are the fastest growing region in the country. There's real issues at play and there's real stakes that are at play for the people here, for the youth, for the generations that have been here forever. And, I think there needs to be a change in the narrative of what we hear and of what we need to focus on.
Okay. How has your vision evolved since the organization started?
So the organization's kind of new, so it's kind of just been figuring out how to turn my vision into a reality and turn a vision that we have been collaborating with. Well, let me back up a little bit. We've been collaborating with a bunch of local leaders from people who have organized unions at Starbucks to people who are in the LGBTQ community here, working for the local Pride Fest, for the local Pride organizations. Um, we're trying to work with everyone. We're trying to hear everyone's ideas and figure out what is most important to y'all and how can we turn these visions and these ideas into reality? How can we show up to our city council meetings? How can we show up here and there and let people know what our goal is and how we plan to make it happen? So, it's definitely evolved a little bit in trying to make my vision more bipartisan and more open to everyone. But while running for city council and county commissioner, the city council race was nonpartisan. So I was not a Democrat or a Republican. Um, but I was extremely progressive during that run. And for county commissioner, I happened to be on the Democratic ticket for the primary. But with dealing with the people, talking to the people, hearing what's most important, there's no reason why there should be a D or an R next to a county race. It's it shouldn't be a politicized job. It should be focusing on what's important to the people, what matters to the people. And while running, I heard a ton of people say they're tired of what's going on in our halls of Congress, in the White House, in our local house. Um, there's so much demonization of communities. There's so much um, hypocrisy that plagues our halls of leadership, and nothing is getting done, or they're acting like things are getting done when they're not. And it's become beyond clear to the people. While running, people were not only tired of Joe Biden's policies, but of Trump's policies. They're tired of these older white men who are trying to control things. So seeing that Kamala Harris jumped in the race was an absolute save for the party. Um, just that alone kind of altered the way I was viewing this election and the way I was viewing this election year, just because I honestly had no hope for the party for winning more seats because Joe Biden was our candidate. Although he has done tremendous things for the party and to ensure that our country is heading in the right direction, he is not what the people wanted in 2020, and he's not what the people want now. And so I guess with our organization, we had a strong stance originally on voting third party, on kind of stepping away from political affiliation and, kind of realizing that we do have options. But after seeing that Kamala was running and seeing how the landscape has changed a bit, I've jumped back on board with the local Democratic Party. I've been trying to get more involved with our local Democrats. I've been supporting a candidate who is a tremendous candidate running against someone who is Trump and Abbott endorsed, Eric Norman, who's running for state representative here in Texas House District 44. Um, just getting to listen to what he has to say, what residents here have to say. It's kind of just, it's changed a lot, I'll say.
Okay. How does your organization plan to address key issues facing our community, such as healthcare, housing, or climate change?
So, just two of those are really big ones. Healthcare, of course, is huge, but I've noticed it's really difficult at uh, county level to have much influence on how we influence those kind of decisions here. We, of course, in the past, when I was running the Young Democrats, we advocated for the Grace Act, for our city to pass the Grace Act to decriminalize abortion within the city limits, and to ensure that our women and even children who are having to go get medical treatment for reproductive health care, to ensure that they are not targeted by our police, that they are not targeted by lawyers, that they're not targeted by local conservatives who are going to demonize their decision, their doctor's decision. So we've done things like that in the past. But one of the other things we are hoping to do is to bring more attention to the lack of water that our district has seen. Just last year during the summer, we saw that our river completely dried up. It was stagnant. There was no wildlife in it. And there was a huge concern for, like, oh my God, we've never seen this happen. Is this going to happen again? How often is this going to be happening now that development has skyrocketed, now that our city has kind of bowed down to the developers and given them everything they wanted? While attending a city meeting, a private sitting meeting with a few of the city manager, the city assistant, city council members, I had learned that the city of New Braunfels not only cannot manage this growth, but they're lying to the people about what they can manage. They openly said that they are telling developers and telling the people, yeah, come on in, we can manage the growth, come develop here and there and all this, but they can't manage it. They are doing it so they can get more investments from bigger developers, so they can have more money flowing in, but they do not have the resources or technology to keep up with what's going on. Um, Now that I've been in Seguin more recently, which is Guadalupe County, I've seen that Seguin is a little further behind. They're not at that point where they have those decisions to make if they want to neglect the people and focus on just the money, because it's a smaller city. It's like I said, a little more behind, while New Braunfels is right in between San Antonio and Austin, right along the I-35 corridor. So it has a ton of development coming in. The housing market is completely atrocious. There's no way that any generational resident or future resident who is generational can afford these kind of prices. Our youth is getting priced out. Our neighborhoods of generational residents have been pushed out by gentrification. These are huge issues that need to be acknowledged. And just show, our plan is to just show up. We need people to just show up, go to your city council meetings, go speak, and share your concern about what is going on. Like I said, we've seen Republicans show up to show their concern about the LGBTQ books. We need to be showing up to share our concern about the housing, the lack of housing, and our resources that are at risk.
Okay. So, how do you plan to increase the voter turnout among young people and the community?
So that's one of the challenges that I've been trying to figure out for a good minute. Just talking with so many people, that's one of the questions I always get asked is, so how do you feel about the turnout for young people? Do you have hope in young people that they will turn out? And to be very honest, I did not at first. But like I said, with the shift that we have seen with Kamala jumping in and running, and with her team going completely towards the younger people, We've seen that there are more young people excited about what's going on, and that is the problem. We don't have enough people to get excited about. We have people who will jump in because they felt it was the right thing to do, or we hear that all the time, like, oh, I had no intention of running, but I just wanted to put my name on the ballot, which is always good. We need more people to jump in and do that. But we also need people who are serious about this, who are jumping in this to advocate for the people, who know what issues are affecting people, and who are willing to do what it takes to get elected and to better advocate for the people. Um, as we've seen, we have a lot of politicians that jump in and they lose their spine the second they get elected. And we need more people who will stand firm to their beliefs and who will continue advocating for the people, even whenever they feel like it's not what they should do, or I don't know, it's always one of those things that kind of gets me going, hearing that there's candidates who are getting these funds, who are getting support but are not serious about this. In Comal County, we've seen it countless times. Candidates jumping in to run just to replace another candidate, not to bring in new ideas, not to um, change the actual landscape, but just to push someone else out. Um, like even during my primary, my local Democratic Party, which is somewhat conservative leaning, more moderate, I'd say, um, threw in another moderate Democrat just to push me out, to push me as a progressive candidate out of the race. And we've seen that happen countless times. I've seen it happen to a handful of people I know, just people trying to jump in with no intention of having a serious campaign. So I guess to get young people out, we need to jump in and have a real intention of sticking with it and just getting people excited. We've seen one of my local candidates in Comal County, who's running for State House, Sally Duvall, recently released an ad where she is smoking a joint and smoking a bong, advocating for decriminalizing marijuana. And I can tell you, I've heard countless young people who are telling me, I've never seen this. This is insane. It's so exciting to see someone who's actually like who has a real spine and who's a real human and not just some snake politician. So, we need more excitement in politics.
Which brings on this question. You touched on it a little bit. How does the organization plan to support progressive candidates at the local and state level?
So, one of our goals and one of the things that's on our website is putting more of a focus onto recruiting candidates, recruiting progressive candidates to run for local office. Our goal is to look across both counties and find positions that will be open for the following few election years, as well as trying to find people within those districts who have been known for leading locally, who are local leaders, who are local advocates, and trying to convince them to run, and not just convincing them, which we've seen our local parties are able to do, but we need some convincing and we need some resources behind that. We need resources to support those candidates. We need contacts and networking towards those candidates. So our goal is to not only recruit those candidates to run for office, but to then stick around and support their efforts to run, to help them create graphics, to help them um, fundraise, to help them get campaign material, to connect them with other people who are trying to do the same thing, basically.
Okay. So then, how would you balance national progressive ideas with the specific needs for our local community?
So that's a really good question. And that's one thing that I've personally been trying to balance. Um, Seeing that it is a presidential election year, it's really hard to find that balance of keeping national politics here and local politics here. But it tends to kind of bleed in a little bit here and there. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is just having common sense policies, trying to put common sense ahead and common sense, facts, and knowledge ahead of opinions and biases. Trying to bring focus to, of course, the real issues that matter. Like I said, we have more in common at the local level than on the national level. And we on the local level are facing tremendous, unprecedented growth. We on the local level are facing extremely corrupt politicians. We on the local level are facing our resources being at high risk for not only disappearing, but for being drained and taken away by bigger corporations. These are issues that affect everyone here, and these are issues that we want to ensure that we are putting focus on. Um, yes, there will be things such as what's happening, the genocide in Palestine, or other national issues, but of course, we will take our stance on those, but then we're also going to have a strong stance on what's happening locally. Like I said, we're here to change the local political narrative, and we need to bring more attention to the real issues that are going on here. One of the things I would like to actually bring up is last week I had attended a meeting at the Texas Lutheran University. It was a candidate forum for city council candidates all the way up to state representative. I attended with Naomi Alanis, who was running for county commissioner. And upon attending, everything was fine. You know, I had a sign for one of the candidates, Eric Norman, who I mentioned. I had held my sign, of course, cheered when he was talking and supported. But afterwards, I was approached by an older white man who said that I had no right to have that sign there and that I had no right to be there. Um, I then found out that he was actually a Seguin City Council member. But I then approached the mayor who was there to address the issue. And she was like, well, that's just how he is, and turned her back on me to talk to someone else. And, you know, these are local issues. For example, we've had so many countless young people who have been ignored. We have countless young people who have been turned away or discouraged from being involved. And seeing that these city council members are willing to go to a university with young people hosting a candidate forum and then telling them off for voicing their opinions and calling out a candidate who is clearly just there to push an agenda, which is Alan Schoolcraft, the one supported by Trump and Abbott. He was there and he was the one running against Eric and the one who I was, of course, showing support against.
So that's a good one. But it leads to this question right here. How does the organization ensure that the leadership and membership reflect the diversity of your community?
So for that, it's a really tough one because it's hard to be picky about who's getting involved and who's not. It's been really tough to find diversity who are involved. We've seen our local parties are filled with nothing but a bunch of older white women who are retired and most of the time wealthy. Um, and we've seen younger people who are working class who don't have time to show up for these things. One of the things we've been trying to do to ensure that we have a good number of people turning out who are diverse, of course, is planning with them, talking to them personally and asking, what days work for y'all? What day are y'all able to show up? What day can we work with you to have a meeting? So it's basically been a bunch of coordinating. My phone is actually full of messages from members of the organization, just trying to figure out like, oh, are you free on this day? Are you free on this time that day? And then asking someone else, do you happen to be free on this day and this time? And then kind of just balancing out. It's one of those things that takes a lot of time, but I think it's worth it. It's worth showing people that you care for their involvement and that you care for them to be involved, for them to actually be showing up. And I feel like that's one of the most important things is showing care and compassion towards people who are involved. We've seen, like I said, countless times where older white women will see newer people get involved and they'll immediately get defensive that they're doing too much work or that they have a higher standard of what should be getting done. Um, and then they get pushed out. So just trying to show acceptance for the fact that people even take the time to get involved, I feel is so important.
Okay, one last question for you. What is the organization long-term vision for our community in terms of policy changes and political influence?
So I'd say a long-term goal is just trying to make a bigger presence in the community, growing the progressive movement and actually establishing some sort of foundations for the future of the progressive movement within this region, within Texas. Um, because, when I ran for office, I felt like it was important to not only make use of the resources that we were provided, but to also show people that their time and efforts towards the campaign, their donations that were made, went to good use. One of those ways that I did that was starting this organization, showing people that, you know, you donating to my campaign now is not just for this campaign, but it's building the foundations for any progressive to run in the future. We're putting that money towards growing the movement, towards building our efforts towards showing up, towards getting people involved, towards getting banners, getting cards, just being able to make a presence and influence enough people to be involved, I guess. So, like I said earlier, we see a lot of candidates who jump in, who have the support, who have the money, but they kind of just let it go and then they no longer care about the race just because they don't feel like they're getting the full support they need. Why not use those resources and funds towards growing the movement so we can have another generation of leadership run, so we can have the foundation, so we can have the groundwork for other leaders to continue. We've seen all over Texas that we have people run and they completely give up afterwards. We need people to stick around and we need people to grow that movement. We need people to show support for newer people coming in and for people who are already getting involved. Like I said, showing them your appreciation just for being involved is beyond important. One of the main things I've noticed is people just want to be heard. They just want to be appreciated. And it's not that hard to show appreciation for being involved. It's a tough thing to do, and I'm sure it's the type of people that you run into. It's on a huge spectrum. You never know what you're gonna get. You never know what you're gonna see or hear. And I feel like by working with all that and by trying to build around that, that's kind of just how we're hoping to grow, hoping to continue the organization. Like I said, building a presence, getting involved. So one of the other things that we'd like to do is have community gardens around the district in areas that have low poverty or a high poverty rate, just so we can have extra alternatives for these people to, get resources locally or to just show support for their neighbors, as well as finding little lots around the district or around Comal and Guadalupe to plant flowers in, to plant trees in. It's the little things that matter. And so, we're kind of just hoping to fill in the little gaps that our local Democrats have forgotten to fill in, and then making a presence with that.
Okay. Wow. Well, I appreciate your time and your organization stepping up and getting the word out because, like I said, the youth is important.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start listening to the youth on what they have to say because you believe it or not, what we always say, the youth is our future.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to start listening to them. Oh, if you're 80 years old and if you're 19 years old, you should come together with something. You have something in common.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
When there's things we have in common, there's no reason why we shouldn't be acknowledging them.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you for coming on, taking the time, Bentley. We appreciate it.
And yes, of course. And I appreciate you giving me the time to just jump on here and talk with you and to share some of my ideas and goals for my group. It means a lot.
Okay, well, we appreciate it. You take care of yourself and we'll talk to
you as well. Have a good one.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you for watching Texas in Color. Please tune in every Wednesday at 11 a.m. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so you'll be notified each and every time we go on live.